Well, in an effort to secure America's borders and safety, the Trump administration is considering a new travel ban on the citizens of more than 43 countries due to policy and security reasons, according to officials familiar with the planning. The ban would divide those 43 nations into red, orange, and yellow tiers. Citizens of nations in the red category, like Iran and North Korea, flatly barred from entering the United States, while citizens of countries in the orange and yellow categories would face stricter scrutiny and controls. Trump also issued travel bans targeting Muslim countries during his first term as president that were repeatedly challenged by the courts and protested in the streets. Joining me now is former Obama campaign foreign policy advisor and former State Department official David Tafuri. David, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So administration officials say that policy and security concerns are behind this new ban. But do you think there are specific reasons behind the restrictions? How do you feel about it?
First of all, let me say there's nothing wrong with the Trump administration changing our visa policies to make America safer. Second of all, while there's been a lot of reporting, and you just summarized it very well, about what this visa ban is going to look like, the actual policy has not come out. So we don't know the details, and we don't know whether there are exceptions and there's some discretion for exceptions that could fix some of the things that people are criticizing them for. I would also note that the red category, so the countries that have a complete ban, is not just Muslim countries. So the first Trump administration, when it did a ban, originally it was all Muslim countries, and so it was seen as a Muslim ban and seemed to be unfairly targeting Muslims. This new one, there are other countries in the red category. You mentioned one, North Korea, also Cuba, that are not Muslim majority countries. So this is not going to be looked at just as a Muslim ban. But it still might be overly broad and in some ways overly narrow. The way it's overly broad is that there are some countries on here, like Afghanistan, for instance, where, yes, there are bad people in Afghanistan. It's run by the Taliban, but there are also good people in Afghanistan still, people that helped our U.S. troops and our U.S. diplomats during the long war there, people that we know are friends of America. And so you don't want to ban all of them. Similarly, a country like Libya. It's a country that has problems. It has security issues. It's divided into two governments, but it also has good people. We have American companies working in Libya. I was just met with some Libyans last week around energy issues. There's a lot of excitement about producing more oil in Libya, and American companies want to be there. So that's going to make it much harder for American companies to compete if Libyan businessmen who would meet the criteria for a visa cannot come here and do business. It's overly narrow in the sense that some countries are not on here that do have people that have committed terrorist attacks in the United States. For instance, the worst terrorist attack in our history was 9/11. And most of the 9/11 terrorists came from Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. And none of those countries are on there.
All right, how do you think this ban would impact already tense relationships with our allies? We hear Trump, at odds about how to handle the war in Ukraine, everything with NATO. How would this impact things?
Well, the ban has Russia on there, and I think it's in the second category. And so, I think people who want us to have a tough policy on Russia would applaud the fact that Russia is on there. And I would note that there are still very heavy sanctions on Russia that the Trump administration has kept in place. So in that way, I think this is consistent with taking a tough stance against Russia, given their illegal invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine, of course, an ally, is not in any of those three categories.
Yeah, does that surprise you that Russia is on that list? Is that like a negotiating tactic? Is this the art of the deal, or what's this about?
Well, it could be, because remember, President Trump has said he wants to have better economic relations with Russia. Of course, that can only happen if there was some sort of ceasefire and President Trump was happy with Russia, and then there was the easing of sanctions, because almost all business is banned under U.S. sanctions currently. But if those things were to happen, then you would not want to have a ban like this on visas, because Russian businessmen couldn't come here. But I think that's still a long way away, given the heavy sanctions still on Russia and the fact that the Trump administration wisely has not eased those sanctions yet.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.